God bless you. Thank you for joining us in our Bible study time at the Pentecostal Church of Christ. I'm Bishop Derek McNeil Hanna. We thank you for coming in with us every Wednesday. We always believe in teaching the Word of God and giving people biblical truths that will change their lives. Thank you for coming in. Today we have an interesting conversation. I am here with Minister Jeffrey Sims, and we're having a conversation that we wanted to invite you into concerning a real big issue in the church: finances. Now, here it is. We always talk about this, but we never really delve into the actual conversations about how to be better stewards with what God has given us. God gave us great opportunity, great knowledge and people with information, but sometimes we miss it because we don't hear Him, or we don't follow the laws that are out here. We don't look at certain criterias of finance and what that means. In the church world, we have two big problems in the church, and it's a very true statement. We have two big problems in the church: sex and money. But we won't talk about either one of them. We only talk about them when there's a problem, and then we never really give you information. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. We want to start doing preventative maintenance so that we can see the growth in the church. I want to see people happy coming to church. I want to see the saints leave out, not because it's time a way to get money. It's much bigger than that. In our communities, some of us only go to church and go to work and come home. We go to family events, but we don't have the avenues to go and learn about finance. Today, I want to have a conversation about finance so that we can start having finance conversations in the church, that people can understand the, the brevity, what it really means to be financially stable. I encourage people from our church to take vacations. Go on vacation with your family. Save your money. Put up for later, because tomorrow is coming, whether you like it or not. The sun is going to get up tomorrow. No matter what you believe or what you say, the sun is going to get up tomorrow, and tomorrow's coming. Have you prepared for tomorrow? Have you prepared for the future? I think now it's time to have a conversation, not just in this segment of PCC, but in all the church world. We need to have a conversation concerning finance. Today I have with me our good minister, Minister Jeffrey Sims, and I want him to introduce himself, and I want him to give a little history about him. I know things about him, but I want him to tell you what a powerful conversationalist, also a knowledgeable man. But we're in a place where now we need to release the knowledge of the people that God has given us. Minister Jeffrey.
Thank you, Bishop. I really appreciate this opportunity. First of all, I have to say, I've spoken before a lot of individuals, but I am honored to be here with you, our bishop, my leader, and I consider you a friend.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to say that first, and to approach this very vital topic of finance. So before we even broach this topic, let me talk about myself.
Sure.
First of all, I'm not going to tell my age, but I've been around quite a while. And I have been in healthcare, I will say, for the purposes of kind of avoiding my age, over 30 years. Five of my years was in direct care, but the other 25 was in management. So I went the traditional path. I went through a supervisor, a manager, a VP of 3 hospitals, and ultimately a CEO. I have to tell you, Bishop, as a VP and a CEO, I saw things that really kind of expanded my knowledge base as it relates to finances, how to manage budgets, how to manage individuals. I actually had 3 hospitals with the largest human capital resource. That's people. And so, so having 3 hospitals and managing 3 different groups of people, that was a knowledge building exercise. And finally, as a CEO in the state system, I had the unique opportunity to see budgets at a state level, coming to a county level, coming to a local level. And one thing I found about finance, it's not money, but it's influence. And it's what that finance, being in that position, allows you to have at your fingertips. And so those principles, those things that I've learned, I was able to apply them to my own personal finance. And when I did that, things just blossomed. So that's what I hope that we can share with the body. Those things that I've learned that you know, and together I think that would benefit the body.
I think it's so interesting that we're talking about this and about management and budgets. As I worked for HUD, and I had low-income properties, multi-million-dollar buildings. As you know, when you're not dealing with 50,000. Your budgets are in the millions. And then now you have to really calculate. You have to give various reports. You have to know what's going on. Why did you spend over? Why didn't you spend this? What are we doing here? The depreciating value of things in your buildings, how to build up, where finance is coming from. You have to hire people, costs, taxes, payroll, everything that's going on. So you understand the brevity of it all. You get it. I think one of the things that we don't do, and honestly, I desired to have this conversation with you and with everyone in our cyber sanctuary, simply because there's not enough of us who can understand the basics, how to go home, how to take those principles that we learn at the job, bring them home. How do we deal with this? In truth, most of the time when we talk about finances, it's usually in crisis situations. And we see that most people don't know what to do with their paycheck. They get a paycheck, they feel like, I'm going to the store right now, I'm going to Target, or they call it Target now, they immediately go spend because they see money, and it's like, but it's like that fear of just sitting down and saying, let me just calculate what's going on, what's happening with me, what's going on with my life, and I think now that we see that there is a need in the church. There's a need in the church. One of the things that I like to ask you is, when you hear finances, when we talk about finances, what is your gut reaction? What is your fear? I have a couple of things I want to jump in because I have a couple of people said some things to me. I was talking to them this week, and it just sparked me because I was like, man, I never thought about that. But when you hear that, what is your response? We hear the gut feeling.
Well, Bishop, you said something, and I want to step back just a little bit.
Sure.
To talk about the discussion of finance in the body. And so when the church starts the discussion of finance, there's this automatic, I use the word clenching. They become very, very uptight. And I think it's because of the years of conditioning. So when they hear about money or finance, they think to give. But you gave a different perspective when we sat down to talk. You said, I'm worried about the body not taking care of themselves. I want the body to be whole. Absolutely. And that is mind, spirit, and even in their finance. Absolutely. So I'm hoping with this discussion that our parishioners open up and allow themselves to listen to it. It's not about just giving solely to the church. It's about giving to yourself.
Absolutely.
So now, to your question about what do I experience when I hear the word finance? The first thing I hear is this sound of worry and fear and apprehension.
Right.
And it comes from a place of having a lack of knowledge. Growing up as an African American male, I don't know if you know much about Cleveland, in East Cleveland, so that wasn't kind of, the best neighborhood. We didn't have a lot of knowledge about finance.
Right.
All our parents told us was save, 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 save. And we did that, but to what end? And, and so what else do we do with finance other than just saving? Right. So when I went into these different positions, I saw more than just saving.
Right.
It was like, hey, you're saving this money, but if you put it over here, there's a potential for that money to grow. So it grows in your savings account, but it certainly will grow in an investment. It will grow in a Roth IRA. It will grow in a deferred comp. So I think, if we can get out of that space of fear, right, and apprehension and worry, and look at our finances, as I said before, as another way to influence where we want to be in our life. So the gut reaction I had as a newbie, as a young man, was fear. I need to amass all I can unto myself. And then as I matured and I was exposed to this stuff that we're talking about now, I was like, hey, there's more to this than just saving. There's other opportunities.
Right. Right. Well, it's funny, we go back to talking about that, because I think the other part about church, now I've been in church all my life, and when you hear church, the first thing, I'm cynical. I'm from Southwest Philly. I'm from, I'm from the street, so I'm cynical. So you want me to do this because you want my money.
Exactly.
It's almost like you're baiting me to get my money. So you're telling me about finance because you want more money from me. But I started realizing that the problem that we're having with that mentality is, I need to teach you how to manage the money you have now. Exactly. Because it's not about me getting more money to you. I'm not about me getting money from you, but me getting money to you. It's arranging your money so that your money can work for you. And if it's okay with everybody, I want to bring a scripture in here. It's funny that Jesus gave three people talents, 10, and he gave them 5, 2, and 1. And the guy who had 5 doubled his. The guy who had 2 doubled it. But the one, he said, I buried mine because, he said, I knew you was a hard master, and I knew that you would get me if I lost your money. And Jesus says something in the story that most folk miss in the story. Okay. He says he called him a wicked servant. He said, you could have at least taken my money to the bank and got usury, which is interest.
Absolutely.
Which is interest. You could have gotten interest on my money, got my money to grow. You didn't even do that. You buried it so nobody else could see it, or nothing. It couldn't benefit itself nor you. Because the question is, how many times are we just watching people put their money in a situation, or they do something, they invest in something, and it really, because you can say what you want to, we do invest in stuff. It depends on what you invest in. If you invest in going out to dinner all the time, if you invest in fake Gucci or fake Louis Vuitton or real Louis Vuitton, you invest in getting expensive cars, you invest in getting a lot of clothes, those are your investments. You invested in that. You can't say you don't invest, because you do. You pay for something, and you pay for, and whether you build up your credit card bill is out of whack. It may be because of spending habits, maybe because you were living off of it, maybe because you're living beyond your means, you lost your job, something has happened, I don't know. But whatever the situation is, we have to go back and start asking ourselves, how do we find a way to use what God has given us or given us access to? The Bible says in Deuteronomy 8 and 18, he gives us the power to get wealth. He doesn't give us wealth, he gives us the power to get it. The question is, how do we get it, and then how do we maintain it? And so this is kind of like we're in our faith community, we're missing the long-term conversations. In truth, we're finding ourselves not happy with our lives and what's going on. We're looking at people out there and saying, look at all the stars and everything, but there was a couple of stars that came out who said, you're looking at us and you're thinking we have, but we don't have. We don't have. By the time we pay taxes, we pay agents, we pay everybody else, we're walking away with just this, and that could be it for the year if you don't have something else going on. And so we have equated things by being successful financially, and financially we're rolling. When we hear finance in the, let me finish that statement. We question the way finances are, but in truth, we have to start thinking about the fact that a lot of people who are sitting in the pews, and a lot of churches, thousands of churches across America, across the world, who have money but don't know what to do with it, who are afraid because the last time some prophet came along, prophesied, and they gave good money, they didn't get a good return. And let's just be all honest, some of the pastors they letting folk in, and they coming in and they taking advantage of the people of God who you're supposed to be watching. You've let the wolf come in and take from them, and now they walked away with dreams and believing that things are going to turn around without them doing anything, and you forgot to tell them. If you plant, you're going to have to water. You have to nurture. You have to be able to come back to it. And we don't have that conversation anymore. This is why I'm thinking maybe we should start having a real conversation about our faith. I mean, I'm saying to you, do you believe that our faith has been compromised by the pursuit of finances?
Well, I want to go back because you said something, and then I want to step forward to the question. That mistrust that we have in maybe the leader comes from a place of immaturity and a lack of knowledge. I'm going back to the lack of knowledge.
Sure.
So Paul said, when I was a child,
I speak in this.
Understood. But when I became a man, I got a very different perspective. And so if you're sitting in church and you're not learning this kind of stuff, then I can see how you can have the mistrust. I believe that if you have the knowledge and you feel that God is leading you to do something, don't be afraid to jump out into the deep.
Absolutely. Especially
with leaders and good leaders. Now going back to your question, so faith. So I think we better do a better job of defining what we think is faith.
Right.
Webster would say it's confidence, total confidence in something. And so I guess, Bishop, when I think about finance, I don't need to have faith to pay my bills. I know that my bills come monthly, quarterly, whenever they come.
Right.
I don't have to have faith to know that they're coming. They're coming. I don't have to have faith to know that there's a certain amount that I need to have set aside to pay that bill.
Yes,
I
sir.
have faith that if I don't pay that bill, they will turn off my lights. I have faith to know that they will cut off my phone. So I think, in the sense of faith, you don't need to have faith in that kind of sense. The other thing, number two, I don't think you need to have faith when it applies to principles.
Right.
So there's certain principles that you don't need to have faith for. Malachi says, bring all the tithe into the storehouse.
Right.
And then the principle is, prove me. So I don't have to have faith because God already said.
He already said it.
It's
the
already,
principle's in place.
It's
Yes,
already in place.
absolutely.
So I don't have to have faith for that,
Right.
for those singular things. But there is a point where faith does come alive. Now I want to go to use a scripture in Matthew 14 where Jesus had the people in the desert and they have been there all day learning.
Right.
And the disciple says, hey, send them away. We don't have food to feed these individuals.
Absolutely.
And so then Jesus said, wait a minute, hold on a second. Let's sit them down in 50s and seats of 50. And then what are the resources that we have? And they said, well, we have 2 fish and 5 loaves.
Right.
So that's just enough food for that little boy. Please don't bring me 2 fish and 5 loaves. My stomach needs more than that.
Absolutely.
And so now,
Mine too. Mine too.
I can only speak about my belly.
I had 2 little fish.
Exactly. It was only enough for him. But now I needed faith to apply to feeding the masses. And so I think when we talk about faith and finance, I want to have my faith turn to my finance to then say, okay, now it's not just for me, but it's to the masses. There has to be a reason that we're pursuing that kind of faith. And so I think for the body to learn that, hey, we don't need it for the principles, we don't need it for the small things, but we do need it for the big things. And that's what we need.
That's you know, it's funny because I think that when you get it, then the question is, what will you do with it? It has
It's
to have
always
purpose. What's the purpose of getting it? Just to have it? Just to pile? You know, you want to build barns and bigger barns. Is that what you really want to do?
And then what happened to that?
Exactly. You have to be careful how you're building unto yourself.
Right.
And it has to be more than just about you. It's where rich people get the word philanthropy. It's understanding something has to be greater than me. I need to do for and be there and help. Because you need to have, not just for tax purposes, but for really helping humankind. Because if only the few have, then the many begins to get angry and they begin to attack that which you work for, and you're getting mad because the disparity between the finances is crazy. But we don't really see it from that point because we're just talking about, well, they work for their money, and I get it, but you have to make sure that other things are taken care of and that we invest in the future of everything. It is years ago I was in a class and a professor said he was dealing with overseas and I forget what class it was, but we were dealing with things overseas in America, funding those things. And then he had made an interesting point to me that I didn't think about. He said, because I was complaining, we're giving all this money away to everybody over there, da, da, da. He said, because if we're over here doing very well and they over there poor, and we don't at least go help them, when they get older, they're gonna wanna come and attack us because we don't do for them. We need to have peace around everywhere. And we need to show people with our power and with our influence, that's what we take. Our finances, our influence, like you said it earlier, our influence. That gets us in other places and being able to help them stabilize. Like our church, for example. We do a shoe drive. This is a plug for Deacon Sharon. We do a shoe drive.
Wonderful job.
Wonderful job. And we collect shoes. Well, those shoes go to people to help them, people who need shoes. But it also goes to other countries to help entrepreneurs who are starting businesses and help support people. But some of those shoes go to help somebody who's starting a business who needs to sell shoes in order for them to make a living. And so, and so now we see that our ability to help somebody start a business is by something we think, Pastor said it Sunday, something that you think is old and you would throw away, that you don't think is nothing, somebody else thinks is wonderful. And go ahead.
I just want to, you bring up an excellent point. What I found as I've matured, that I want my resources to grow not just for me, but I want my resources to direct my passion. And so if I have resources, I want to plant it somewhere.
Right.
And so where do I plant my resources?
Right.
I've learned, I had this wonderful experience. I had this young man I was mentoring, and I helped him through school, and I helped him to get his first job. And that young man turned around and he said, I'm going to Spain. I've always wanted to go to Spain. He said, and you're going to Spain.
Wow.
And I was like, he said, all you have to do is get a passport.
Wow.
I went to Spain for not a week, 3 weeks.
Whoa.
But it was because I sowed into good ground. And so your resources, if it finds the right ground and it's into the right passion,
Absolutely.
it will come back to you.
And I think now that we're seeing the investment piece, what are you investing in? What are you giving your resources to? Are you giving it to going out to dinner? Are you giving it to the car lot people? Are you giving it to, these different items and stuff? And I owe it to myself to treat myself. Sometimes you can't treat yourself because you got to batten down the hatches, as they used to say, and really go hardcore into those particular situations that say, I can't give away this money.
You gave a message. It was a great message. You were talking about, like, we spend money, frivolously, and you were talking about like, hey, do you take your lunch or do you buy lunch? Where are you investing every day?
Man,
And where do you take it? And I'm going to tell you, I said I want something. No, I can afford it, but I made a sacrifice. I'm going to take my lunch every day, and then I'm going to save that money so that I don't have to go into my savings or go into something else. I'm going to buy it through my sacrifice.
Wow.
And if we learn how to do more of that.
Wait.
Yeah,
I gotta stay right there. Y'all gotta pin that one. Buy it through your sacrifice. That is a powerful statement because you'll have a much better respect for it.
Absolutely.
If you bought it through sacrifice.
Absolutely.
It was David who said, I can't accept that glass of water from you. You went through all that to get here. I would be wrong to accept that from you. You had to go through battlefields to bring me this. I can't accept it. Here it is. When you sacrifice and work for something, it's totally different.
Absolutely.
Oh.
You appreciate it at a different level. A deeper level.
Sacrifice. I'm going to say that to everybody. Okay, all right. Did you buy it through sacrifice?
Exactly.
Did you sacrifice for your boy? Hey, first of all, that is a hot statement. But I think also it goes back to something else that we've been talking about, and I think underlining we've been talking about this, and I think it goes to my next point is, should the church be talking about finance? Are we obligated to really talk about finance? I mean, because in truth, I can answer the question, absolutely. We got to talk about it because it is killing us. It's killing us. I mean, right now, I saw statements about people, friends of mine who own funeral homes. I have people who I know who own funeral homes. And how many church people just don't have basic stuff? Mm-hmm. How many, and we'll get to the funeral and life insurance later, but just some basic things that we don't have. Listen, here go the thing. I would not order from the Chinese store in Philly. One of the things they would normally do is in Philadelphia. I don't know. They don't do it too much in Cleveland, but in Philadelphia they would do this. The Asian population, they open up the Chinese stores, mm-hmm. and they would sell chicken wings in Chinese stores with fried rice and something else, and people's going in there, and there's a place in Philly called Danny Wok's, and everybody go buy their chicken from Danny Wok. The chicken is pretty good, but then I asked one day, I said, how many of you all are buying chicken from Danny Wok's every day, every other day? Who cook chicken better than black people?
Absolutely.
I mean, who cooks chicken better? No problem with that. But the Koreans, they cook great fried chicken. Did you know we was in a Korean war one time and black folk was over there?
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't have any facts in my hand, but yeah. I'm sure somebody was teaching them how to fry chicken. I may be wrong. Forgive me but they were over there doing it years. There's nothing black people have been inventive and have been able to do this. Why are we going out to eat and we got food at home and we're spending money way out and we're doing all this other stuff and we're throwing money out, and in the church world, we're talking about spiritual life, but the total man needs to be addressed, because if the total man is not addressed, it affects everything. All truths are parallel. We are obligated to talk about finances. Thank you for joining us for that part one of a two-part series dealing in finances in church, talking about preparing and forecasting. What a blessing. Minister Jeffrey Sims and I had a great conversation. You have to come back for part 2. It is dynamic, wonderful time in the Word. I pray that you come back next week to hear this conclusion of the matter. Also, I want to thank everyone for participating in this series. And the reason why it's so important, because we perish for the lack of knowledge. And our finances and our Christianity, our belief, our system of belief comes together when we combine the information that we know and was rendered unto Caesar was Caesar, unto God, God. We know the laws of Caesar. Let's apply those laws so that we can be vibrant, we can be viable saints in the marketplace. I want to thank you for what you for coming in. Please come back next week and see us. Now, before we go, I want to also thank everyone who are partners and give with us. If you do not have a church home, please consider donating and giving to us. We are good ground over here. You'll see our giving apparatuses on the screen, and we ask that you come through. We ask that you give and sow and help us as we fight homelessness, and we fight everything that is going against the saints. We go into the prisons, we fight homelessness. We are trying to make sure that people come out and have a place. We're in the shelters. Thank you for being partners with us in this matter. Also, be aware that we are doing back to school projects right now for our children. Come, when you give, trust me, it's going to great places. We pray that you come back next week and enjoy the time with us as we go back into finances, dealing with the church and finance and forecasting for the future. God bless you.